Well, thank you very much for staying with us. We are now just kickstarting a big conversation surrounding what's happening in the sporting world. And of course, like I said, the London Marathon happened over the weekend. There's the English Premier League title race. And of course, the UEFA Champions League and the UEFA Europa League semi-finals scheduled to be played later on this month, all through to next month, even as both teams the heavyweights in the European football or European world aim to win the most prestigious club competition across Europe. And of course, like I said, I'll be talking to Nation Owano, who's a sports analyst and of course, a communication consultant working with Owano Sports. Nation, very good afternoon to you. I don't know if you can hear me clearly.
I can hear you very clearly, Keitani. It's like 8 p.m. over here. I think it's like 2 p.m. in Kenya, right?
Very right. I can see you're good with your math.
Yeah, I've not forgotten mathematics still.
Well,
I sucked at it. I was bad at it when I was in school, but anyway, life is life.
Just so you know, that makes two of us. But anyway, how are you doing, bro? Because you've been out of the country. How's life?
Everything is good. It's been almost 2 years I've been out of Kenya, so it's been a good experience. It's good to see things from a different perspective, make new connections, and just get like a new trajectory of life. Get a bit of exposure and see what other people are doing outside in the world of sports. Maybe we are hoping that when we come back to Kenya, we can actually implement some of the things that you've seen out here, because we are like in one of the hubs of sports in this part of Asia, Yeah.
Well, pretty much. Now,
thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, man. Thank you very much for agreeing to be with us this particular afternoon and evening or night back in South Korea. Now, let's just jump straight into it. And I want us to begin with the London Marathon, because that particular race happened yesterday. And Paris Jepchirchir in the women's category did manage to win that race, clocking 2 hours, 16 minutes and 16 seconds. That being said, that is a new world record. And of course, Kenyans did secure position 1 and 3 with Jocelyn Jepkosgei being third. Of course, coming in second was Ethiopia's Tigst Asefa, clocking 2 hours, 16 minutes and 23 seconds before Jocelyn, came in third and clocking 2 hours, 16 minutes and 24 seconds. Talking of the London Marathon, because as well in the men's category, Alexander Mutiso did win, clocking 2 hours, 4 minutes and 1 second. Kenenisa Bekele, 42 years old, by the way, very, very, a big name in the athletics world, especially in the marathon, came in second, clocking 2 hours, 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And Emile Carres of the United Kingdom came in third, clocking 2 hours, 6 minutes and 46 seconds. Nash, what do you make of this particular performance, especially now that we are, just a few months away from the Paris Olympics? Remember, I think last week, on Friday or Thursday, the 100-day countdown to the Paris Olympics, started. What do you make of this particular performance?
If I start with the men's performance, to me, I think this is an expectation of what we are going to see in the Olympics. And I'll talk a bit more about that when I'll be talking about in the women's category. When you're looking at the men's side, on the men's table of tally, you can see there's a mixture of different nationalities represented here. There's Kenya, there's Ethiopia, there's Great Britain, there's France, there is Eritrea, Germany, Ethiopia, Germany, USA. I feel like this is the perfect mixture that you're going to see in the Paris Olympics, and I think this should be a wake-up call, I really appreciate what most of our athletes are doing. I appreciate that most of them are working so hard, but also it's good and important for the athletes, especially in the men's category, to realize that other parts of the world are quickly catching up to the prowess of Kenya in the athletics, especially in the marathon. And I think in the first segment, you're talking about Ferdinand Omanyala. I think for the past 2 or 3 years, we've seen Omanyala being at the top of his game. His performance at the Kip Keino Classic is not that he's not doing well. I mean, he's doing well the way he was doing, but the reality of the matter is the competition is getting tighter and tighter. And this is the same thing, you know, when you're looking at the men's category. In this particular list, if you translate this particular list to the Paris Olympics that is going to be taking place, we've not even added Eliud Kipchoge to the mix. So you see how that competition is going to be into the Paris Olympics. So I think this tally, as we are seeing it right now, speaks of the amount of competition that is coming into the marathon space in the world, and is actually challenging, you know, the title that we've had as Kenyans as one of the best runs. When you're looking at the women's segment of the marathon, I think the names that stand out there, as you can see, it's mainly Kenya and Ethiopia. I'm not saying that they're not good athletes, you know, female athletes from other parts of the world, but for the longest time, and I think for quite a while now, we are going to see that Kenya and Ethiopia are going to be still going head on head, as we've already seen that in the past few months. But I think this particular result, as you're seeing it, should be a wake-up call to our athletes as you're going to the Olympics, because and we've seen it with our Ethiopian competitors, you know, like they always go for it, you know, it's either Kenya or it's Ethiopia. And I think that particular trend is not going to end, you know, especially going to one of the biggest stages in the field of sports.
Well, because, you know, the reason as to why I'm talking about the marathon is that the team to represent the country in the 2024 Olympics in Paris was named. And like you alluded to, in the men's, you know, side, we still have the likes of, you know, Eliud Kipchoge, who's considered one of the greatest marathoners of our time. But, you know, people spoke about Alexander Mutiso after winning that London Marathon, but little is known about him. But he was included. He's part of the team set to represent the country, you know, alongside Kipchoge and Vincent Kipkemoing-Ngetich, Timothy Kiplagat, and Benson Kipruto. Now, I want to talk and ask you about, you know, Joycelyn Jepkosgei, because it was, you know, such a great performance from her. But sadly, from the six athletes who are named to represent the country in the women's category, she's not part of the team, because the team includes Ruth Chepngetich, Bridget Kosgei, Alan Obiri, Rosemary Wanjiru, Sharon Lokedi, and the new world record holder, Peres Jepchirchir. Do you feel, because the conversation now here in the country is, will Athletics Kenya, aka, relook into the squad and, you know, probably think about adding Joycelyn Jepkosgei into the squad?
I mean, the issue of athlete selection into this major competition is always a very hot and contentious issue, because there are so many things that they look at, you know. Sometimes, you know, as sports lovers and people who are looking at sports from outside, we usually look at, you know, the immediate performance. But when you're looking at it from an administrator's point of view, there are so many things that they look into perspective, you know, like, for example, the performance of the athletes throughout the season. So in as much as we are people who have seen individual streaks of brilliance from certain athletes, our perception or thought that we'll have will be like, we need that person to be included. But then at the same time, we have to be conscious and be aware that there are some other factors that knock, by the way, the National Olympic of Kenya have to put it to consideration before they came out with this particular issue. You know, I wouldn't want to get into the other controversial part of it, because there are people who say sometimes there's a bit of politics that gets into that. There are people who are saying that, no, you know, there's a bit of corruption. I don't know. I'm just saying that that's just a conversation that sometimes people say. Like, as you're mentioning, that there are people that need to be there and there are people who are not supposed to be there. But I think at the end of the day, you know, it's in as much as we have our opinion, I think it's good to let the people who are tasked with that responsibility select the best people that they feel will represent us well in the global stage in sports.
Well, Nash, thank you very much. I want us to, you know, shift gears from matters athletics to, you know, something that will give you probably, you know, mixed feelings or emotions. Arsenal, the Premier League title race, because it's getting tighter by day. And now that you guys are only focusing on the English Premier League, because sadly, you guys were eliminated by, you know, what people say is the weakest Bayern Munich side in years. And of course, you guys boast of, you know, one of the best teams in recent years in terms of, you know, when you're talking about Arsenal. Now, from where you sit, firstly, as you know, a football fan, what do you make of the title race this season? Because it has been considered as one of the, you know, the most competitive title race in recent years.
I agree with you. You know, I think this is going to be like one of the most competitive title races you've seen because there's so much at stake. I mean, first of all, you can look at Arsenal, who are fighting so hard to win the title. You know, I mean, coming at the backdrop of the previous, you know, last season when they almost won it and then we lost it towards the end. And when you're looking at Liverpool, they have so much at stake. You know, this is Jurgen Klopp's last season in the club. So the team spirit is on high. They want to send Jurgen Klopp in a good way. You know, they want to say that in the final season, Klopp, we won a title for Klopp. And then looking at Manchester City, they have so much pressure because when you're looking at last season, they won a treble. So there's so much pressure that is involved in that. And in terms of looking at how the title race might pace out eventually, I think it's going to be a really tight one because, I mean, all the teams are doing their best, apart from Manchester United. We'll talk about that later on. But I feel all the teams are giving their best, you know, to ensure that they win this particular season. And talking about Arsenal, you know, as an Arsenal fan, or for people who are not even Arsenal fans, I think they can agree with me that the performance of Arsenal this season has been exemplary, not only in the English Premier League, but also in, you know, in the Champions League. Because if you're looking at Arsenal making a comeback to the Champions League and going all the way up to the stage that they reached, then that tells a lot about the quality of the team. So as an Arsenal fan, in as much as we did not get to go to the next stage of the Champions League, I'm actually really proud of where the team has been able to reach. And I'm very, very optimistic that this might actually be the season that Arsenal takes the table. And this is not just based on a sentimental feeling. I think you can always tell it from you can even tell from the way the team is playing. You know, every time they go into the field, they look like they want to give it all. They want to leave every single thing on the field. So as an Arsenal fan, and I think also other people who follow the English Premier League might also agree that, you know, I think they are a serious team to look into picking the title this season.
Well, Nash, you know, this is the second successive season that Arsenal are embroiled in, you know, the Premier League title race. And last season, you guys were, sorry to say, but unsuccessful. And, you know, it's looking like this time around, it's even more difficult because you're not facing one team like you did last season, because there's Liverpool and there's Manchester City. It makes it even tougher. Do you think this piles more pressure in the mind of Mikel Arteta? But again, you know, you and, you know, Liverpool do have an advantage because Manchester City are still playing in the FA Cup, which is now just one more game, you know, compared to you guys. But if you look at the remaining fixtures, do you guys feel like you have, you know, a chance? Do you feel like Arsenal stand a chance in winning the league or not? And if not, who do you feel, you know, in terms of the fixtures that are remaining, is you know, who do you feel is, you know, more in a position to win the league?
I mean, based on the fixtures, I think honestly, I feel we still have a chance because the teams that we really need to fear are the underdogs. And when you're looking at the title, you know, when you're looking at the remaining matches and the fixtures for Arsenal, we have Arsenal versus Chelsea, versus Tottenham, versus Bournemouth. That's a game to watch, versus Everton. And even if you're looking at the season, last season, Arsenal lost the title season last season, not because of the big games. We lost the title because of the small games, you know, like the Crystal Palaces here, you know, the Leeds United here, you know, the Everton here and there. So I feel that is where the league is going to be won or it's going to be lost. And when you're looking at the other teams as well, I think they are also aware, you know, like this is the actual situation of things. And I think that is where the league is going to be won or the league is going to be lost. Because if you're looking at Liverpool, they have West Ham. That's a really tight fixture. They have Tottenham. They have Aston Villa, who, by the way, luckily they beat us.
No, it's not luckily, Nashon. So it's not 2-0 is not luckily. Let's be honest. Anyway,
luckily. Yeah, but That's the reality, that's where the league is won, so because even if you're looking at Manchester United, which I think you might have like a mix of feelings in terms of the performance that they have, irrespective of how Manchester United is performing in the league, you'll be surprised that when Manchester United will be playing against a team like Arsenal, or they are going to be playing against Manchester City, high chances that they might even win that game. You see, so teams always have a way of showing up in big games, but it is the small games that usually cost the teams the title. So I think and I believe that is where the title is either going to be won or it's either going to be lost.
Now, with Klopp departing the Premier League, because at the end of the season he'll be leaving Liverpool, people are talking about Arteta, possibly being the main man or the main guy now in the English Premier League, with the future of Pep Guardiola also hanging in the balance. We never know when Guardiola is likely to leave the English Premier League. Now, how much time from where you sit? Because if you guys go trophyless or fail to win any title this season, then the pressure now piles again on Mikel Arteta, because it will be 2 seasons back-to-back trophyless, being trophyless, despite the good side that you guys have. And probably just in a minute or so, Nation, from where you sit, where do you think you guys need reinforcement? Because last season you lost William Saliba, you got yourselves into a crisis. Now, you got reinforcements, though, Jurriën Timber has been injured for the better part of the season. But if you guys fail to win the league, where do you feel you need reinforcement heading into the next season?
Honestly, I think a couple of seasons back, when we were talking about the deficits of Arsenal, we were talking about from players' perspective. But for me personally, this is just my personal opinion. I'm personally content with the squad that we have. I think the reinforcement that we mainly need is for the players to be a little bit more serious with the team and to keep the right mindset. Because even if you're looking at some of the games that we've lost, and I think you've also seen the press conferences in terms of how Mikel Arteta reacts to the losses, some of the losses could have been avoided. So I feel from a squad perspective, we're okay, I think it's just a matter of having the right mindset and keeping the right mindset, and keeping your mind focused to the game. At the beginning of the season, we were talking about Kai Havertz, and actually I was one of the people who personally thought that Kai Havertz was not the right person to be at Arsenal. But a couple of months later, looking at Kai Havertz right now, he's like one of the players, who's scoring goals for Arsenal, which basically tells of the change in mindset. So it's not a case of shortage of players from my perspective. It's just having the right mindset, even if they do not win the league this season, keeping that right mindset, even going into the other season might be a really important thing. Because to me, I think even if Arsenal do not win, which God forbid, I believe they're going to win, I think it's good to mention that there's been progress in Arsenal, and you can see it, because from 2019, I was one of the people who was like, Arteta out, from 2019, and we've really seen a lot. People have really abused us a lot out here. But, here we are, the top of the table, sitting pretty, looking at the likes of Manchester United, who are still fighting to be on the top 5, So I think the progress is good, and it's just a case of having the right mindset, whether we win or we don't. So I think that's just my opinion.
Well, I wish you were here, during the week or so, the past few months, and you'd probably see how Simba Elijah Charles Kiege treats some of us, him being an Arsenal supporter. But I'm waiting for Arsenal to fail and, to win a silver this season, and then I'll see where he will be heading to, because he will have very, very rough days around. But talking about matters Premier League Nation, there was an incident yesterday where Nottingham Forest felt like, the referees were sort of against them, and after losing 2-0 against Everton, who are also struggling to survive in the English Premier League. And they released a statement saying 3 extremely poor decisions, 3 penalties not given, which we simply cannot accept. We warned the PGMOL that the VR is a Luton fan before the game, but they didn't change him. Our patience has been tested multiple times. Nottingham Forest will now consider its options. Now, from that game and the officiating in the English Premier League this season, what do you make of it?
I think I really appreciate the fact that we have the VAR and we have the referees and all, but then the reality that people have to accept is, at the end of the day, in as much as we have referees in the football game, at the end of the day, they are human beings. And I think we've seen that even in the Mashimeji derby. Sometimes we've seen referees being chased out of the field because of decisions, which, from their opinion, they feel like they were doing the right decision. So, coming from that perspective, I think it's important for the Premier League to see how they can mitigate such issues. I believe that there are some which are beyond their control, which personally I feel that they shouldn't, because being they're the ones that are administering one of the biggest leagues in the world, I feel like they should be in control of such situations. But then at the end of the day, I feel there needs to be a way that the Premier League manages the issue of referees, because the issue of Nottingham Forest is not one of the first ones that we've had. We've had times when even Mikel Arteta complains about the poor refereeing decisions. We've seen, teams lose points, last season, this season, Manchester United, Manchester City. So it's a recurring issue, and I think it's high time the Premier League, steps up and finds a way to deal with this particular issue, because referees play a big role in terms of official games. These are big leagues, these are big teams that are playing, there is money that is involved, there are titles that are involved, there's players' careers that are involved, because if we have a series of poor refereeing decisions and a team is relegated, then that affects the whole team, and I think you'll agree with me on that. So I feel like there's more that needs to be done from the Premier League perspective. We appreciate and we're really grateful that they pioneered, the VAR, but
Nash,
I still feel that there's so much more that needs to be done.
Well, very much. Even as we, get to the tail end of this particular conversation, I just want you to describe, from, your perspective as a football fan, as a football analyst, and of course, in regards to the German side, Bayer Leverkusen. I understand nowadays they're not Bayer Leverkusen anymore, they're Bayern and Leverkusen. What do you make of Xabi's first season? And of course, the possibility of them going unbeaten this season, which means they will be, treble winners. Yeah, treble winners.
Yeah, I think what Xabi has done at Bayern Leverkusen is amazing. I think whenever I'm thinking about Xabi, I'm looking at it from two perspectives. I think for all of us, it reminds us of how old we are getting, because we remember watching Xabi playing, and now we are watching Xabi winning titles, and we're still following football. So we're like, okay, how old are we again? Anyway, but I think it's amazing and impressive what he's done. I think he's achieved what most former players have not been able to do. We've seen big players who transitioned into coaching and has not worked out. A very good example is Wayne Rooney, a very brilliant player, one of the biggest Manchester United legends to ever grace the field, but never really managed to pick off. Look at the likes of Gary Neville, likes of Roy Keane, were not able to pick up coaching. But you see what Xabi Alonso has been able to do, transition from playing to coaching. So I think it's an amazing thing that Xabi Alonso has done. And I think with him at the helm, I still believe that Bayern Leverkusen might be a team to watch even in the Champions League for the next season.
Now, talking about Champions League and Bayer Leverkusen, Nash, there's been the conversation about English Premier League being the best league across Europe. But talking about matters European football, the Final Four in the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League and the UEFA Conference League, there's only one English side, that is Aston Villa in the UEFA Conference League. But in the UEFA Champions League, even as, I want you to tell us what you make of the two fixtures, PSG against Borussia Dortmund, and of course Bayern Munich against Real Madrid, and as well in the UEFA Europa League, Marseille against Atlanta, and Bayer Leverkusen against AS Roma. What do you make of the performance of English teams and those four fixtures? What do you think, or who do you think will, emerge victorious?
Oh, this is a tight one. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, I think I'll give it to Real Madrid. And then the other one is PSG. I think PSG has a good chance to go there. But you see what they said. They said that I don't know. I think I came across a quote this week that said that for you to be able to win the Champions League, rule number one, you have to eliminate Real Madrid. So whichever team eliminates Real Madrid, then that will be amazing. But those will be my two favorite picks.
You still think, do you belong to the category of, or the cadre of fans that argue the English Premier League is the best league in the world, despite, them lacking a team in the final four of both the Europa League and the UEFA Champions League?
I mean, I think the English Premier League is still one of, it's still one of the best leagues we have in the world of football. But at the same time, I feel like people should not let it get into their head that we have the best league, so they fail to perform well. The reality is, yes, you might have the name, but if you do not put in the work, then you might not win. And I think this is characteristic of sport. Sometimes it's not that you're not talented enough. Sometimes it's just that you're not putting in the necessary effort. So they might have yet the best league in the world, but if you're not working twice as hard as other teams who believe that they're not the best, but they're putting in the work, then at the end of the day, you're going to lose. So I think at the end of the day, it's just boiling down to team discipline, hard work, and also tactics play a big part in that. But the reality is the English Premier League is still one of the best leagues that we have in the world of sports.
Of course, English fans will struggle to explain how the English Premier League is, the best league in the world, despite them missing, the four slots in the Europeans' creme de la creme champions, or rather competition. Now, Nation, finally, before I let you go, because time is not really on our side, just want to ask you one question, because I will use it against you some other time, this year. Are Arsenal going to win the league? Yes or no?
Arsenal are going to win the league. Yes, they're going to win the league. You can use it against me.
Of course, that is the answer I was waiting for. I will use this against you. Thank you very much, Nation Owano, for agreeing to be with us this particular afternoon. That is all that we had for you. Do have yourself a good evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
When you come back, by the way,
so much.
When you come back, by the way, I need some merchandise from South Korea.
Of course. We'll definitely deliver that one. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nash. Well, that was Nation Owano, a sports analyst, and of course, a communication consultant with Owano Sports. He's talking about the English Premier League, and an Arsenal fan, he says they're going to win the league. That is the same thing that Simba Laja Charles Kiage says here. He said that last season. In fact, Simba had some Arsenal jersey printed champions on the back. I'm sad because he's turned it into a duster back at home, but I hope it doesn't repeat the same, or he does not repeat the same mistake this year, because again, they will go trophyless. Now, thank you very much for making time to be with us this particular afternoon. And just so you know, there'll be Premier League matches to be played this particular week. And of course, Arsenal will be playing tomorrow against Chelsea in the English Premier League, in a game that will not be an easy game, it being a London derby. Wolves will play against Bournemouth on Wednesday. Crystal Palace will play against Newcastle at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Manchester United against Sheffield United. Everton against Liverpool in a Merseyside derby. And Brighton against Manchester City on Thursday. Now, see you again next week on Monday as we talk matters sports here on Sports 360. Remember, the hashtag is Sports 360. Until next time, do have yourself a wonderful afternoon and evening, and God bless.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken